Good morning, John and Donna. How are you today?
Hey, Sophie.
Hi, Sophie. A bit cold and miserable, even though it's Phuket. It's rained all weekend, and for Phuket, it's cold. It's probably about 26 degrees in reality, but it's still cold. When
It's miserable in Yorkshire today.
You tots know better. It's all wet and cold and miserable. So, today we decided we're going to do an author interview with you guys, and we're going to talk about the new upcoming book, Just Jill. This lovely colour. It matches my wall. That's interesting.
Good, isn't it? Yeah, it's spot on. Yeah.
Excellent. So this is kind of the autobiography of Gill Dalley and the foundations of Soi Dog and how it all kind of began. So just going to ask you guys some questions. We've got some from myself as the publisher, and we've got some fan questions as well to ask you. So if we start off with the first one, which is, why did you guys choose to have this book published now? And what particular challenges did this publication cause you?
I wrote this in 2017, 2018, and the biggest challenge really, I think, was time, because I'm busy. What I tend to do was actually to do it on Sunday afternoons. I used to try and couldn't do it every week, but most of it, try and get down to the bottom of the garden, leave the computer, leave my phone, and literally we have a sala at the bottom of the garden. I could turn round and actually computer and probably show you it, but it might not work. And I would sit down there and I would literally book paper out and scroll my thoughts as they came to me. My memory is not good and it's getting worse. If I'd left it much longer, it'd probably been even less to remember. I wanted to get it down because for me it was important to me, personally, to actually do this, because I knew Jill had intended to, and so I wanted to try and see her wishes carried out. So, and the other hard bit was, as I said, I sat down there scrolling out. The issue was then, when I came to actually start looking to type it up, whatever, on my computer, I couldn't read my own writing because my scroll's so bad, so that was an issue as well. But so that was the reason did it then, and then obviously it's taken a while to, obviously once you've written something, it takes a while to get to come try and get it published. And Victorina of great, are publishing the book now, and it takes time, of course, for things to happen. You need to go through things and everything else and polish up. And I found, there were mistakes where I'd repeated stuff. So that's the reason. Sorry, long answer, but that's more or less why now. I wanted to do it as soon as possible, really. I wanted to sit down and get it done. Yeah.
Okay. But from my side of it, I mean, even though Jill was, as far as she was concerned, never going to die, she often threatened to haunt us if we all didn't make sure that the shelter continued to be run to her standards. But she also said that she'd haunt me if the book wasn't written. She was a very naturally funny lady without even trying to be so. I obviously couldn't have continued with what Jill and I had started without John. Even if Jill and I had gotten to the end of a story, I wasn't emotionally ready to do that. Yeah. It took me so long to even put the notes together that Jill and I had written into any format, because it wasn't the time. I don't know. I have to say that when I did start writing, it became quite cathartic, and I know it did for John as well. I think the challenges for me were more deciding what parts to include, because Jill wasn't there anymore to decide at the last minute, no, I don't want to say that. Yeah. Anymore. She always did say that she wanted it to be brutally honest, as that was her way in everything. But I kept wondering, would she still want that to be said? Would her massive heart at the end of this said, no, we're going to delete certain things when it comes to it? I'd never know. So I just decided for her, but it felt very lonely not being able to ask her. Yeah.
She did say, didn't she, Donna? She wanted, I think the expression she used was warts and all. At the same time, she gave you two in one instance, two things, and it was a case of whether or not, whether a mother was still alive or not, whether something should be
There was a plan A
written.
and a plan B.
Plan B, that's right, yeah. So she was still conscious or concerned about other people's feelings, even though in reality they haven't been particularly bothered about her feelings in the past.
Yeah.
She was still that she didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And that also, mine, I mean, people probably aren't aware, this is written as an autobiography. When you read it, it's Gill talking, but of course it's not. You know, I mean, I've sort of tried to put in as best I can how, speaking as Gill. And there were things that maybe I thought I didn't want it again to be seen as a way of that it was having go at people or incidents, even though they were quite important at the time. Anybody that's still alive, I don't want anybody to be able to say, oh, that was, you know, this has been said about me, even though it might be not. Didn't want that. And I don't know that, I don't think Gill would have done, that's the reason, because, as I say, although she was very plain spoken and said what she thought, she would not want to hurt anybody.
Yeah,
so,
sounds like an honest person, but not cruel. Honest, but never wanted to cause pain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like John said, we had a plan A and a plan B. One was if certain people were still alive. One was if certain people had passed away. What we didn't have was a plan C, which was Gill passing away, because that wasn't in the equation. So.
Well, thank you for that answer. That feels very. It shows the challenges of having to write a book about somebody who's no longer there, and the input that you kind of want from them. Did you guys, including Gill, ever think that Soi Dog would become as kind of this big worldwide organisation as it is, with bases in Thailand, the UK, US, Canada, and other European countries?
No, of course not. When you start something like this, you start it, and it starts tiny, very small. And it's what's happening that day that's important. And you don't really think about tomorrow, next month, next week, next year, etc. You know, right, there's no real plan involved in terms of, no, we're going to do this by then. Things happened as we went along. For example, with the dog meat trade, I saw something in 2007 in a newspaper article, and that stayed with me. I mean, even the starting of, you know, that I wanted to do something, we couldn't do anything at the time, it just wasn't possible. But nevertheless, it never left me. Yeah. And it's the same start of Soi Dog. I mean, that was started because of something we saw and happened on holiday, long before we started. But that was the prompt for starting Soi Dog. And Gill and Leonie, you know, talked about having, even in the book in Gill's diary, you'll see when we're on holiday, she talks about, oh, it'd be great to have a shelter and whatever. And then Gill and Leonie talked about having a shelter. I was only interested at that point in sterilising, trying to solve the problem. But seeds are sown, and you think that would be great to be able to do that. But at the time, you're not actually, there was no plan to say, right, by 2020, Soi Dog will be this, that, and the other. No, of course not. So you cannot really, you don't know how things are going. There's all sorts comes into play. There's a certain amount of luck. You know, you rely on a lot of people. And the fact that Soi Dog is now you know, well, we actually help now more dogs and cats than any organisation in the world. Now, if you directly, in terms of treating and sterilising, I mean, it's well over 120,000 sterilising now, you know, a year. If you'd said to me, asked me that question back in 2003, I'd have, you know, you're joking, don't be silly, you know, it's never going to happen. So you can't foretell the future, is what I'm saying. So it wasn't planned. And no, I think the answer would be with no idea get to as it is now, and that's down to many different reasons, some of which are featured in the book.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want to add anything to that, Donna?
Just that since my involvement, I've never doubted that Soi Dog Foundation would continue to achieve what it set out, because it's based on the ethos of Gill and John Dalley.
Yeah.
I don't personally know anyone else who've got so much respect worldwide, and the transparency and dedication that they've displayed throughout, in terms of the sacrifices the Dalleys have made over the years and the massive contribution they've made towards animal welfare personally. They've laid the foundations for future generations to follow. So no, since I met them and I got involved, I haven't had those doubts at all.
You always thought it was going to be this massive organisation with...
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to probably look at our mission statement. I mean, our mission statement originally was an end to stray dogs and cats and cruelty in Phuket.
Yeah.
Then changed to Thailand. It's now actually says Asia. So that's the next version. The final version actually says a day when there are no more stray dogs and cats, because we still focus on Thailand. I'm a great believer in that you spread yourself too thinly and you don't achieve anything. You know, you need to focus. And when you achieve that, you move on and move on. It won't happen in my lifetime, for sure, but I would, you know, our missions, when there are no more stray dogs. And we've still focusing on Thailand now. It's moved on from Phuket. We do more work outside of Phuket than we do in. We're also working now, moving gradually into other countries in Southeast Asia. We will eventually cover all Asia, and eventually, say, long after I'm gone, hopefully the world. You know, we'll be able to, you'll be seeing Soi Dog operations everywhere. You mentioned at the start about America, Canada. Bear in mind, those organisations, there's no programs there, no animal welfare programs there. It's purely about giving the foundation here in Asia the tools, the ability to be able to do the work we do.
Yeah. This one's specifically aimed at yourself, Donna. What do you think that Gill would have thought of the book now?
Firstly, I think she would think we were absolute bonkers for sitting here talking about her. She'd cock an eyebrow and ask if we didn't all have better things to do on a Sunday morning than to discuss her. I know that Gill would think, because she's always one to think about others before herself, she would think that John has been very brave for being able to do this, unbelievably brave, and she would be very, very proud of him. She'd think that I was very brave too, and say things like, I'm sorry I can't be there to help you, love, because that was her nature and her essence. She would think that John should have told her as much when she was here, that he loves her as much as he does in the book. Though no fault of her own or of John's, Gill by her nature was very insecure. About the book, I doubt whether she would even read it. She'd be far too busy. She wasn't vain in any way at all. She'd want to make sure that it was factually correct, as she was a stickler for detail. But as far as she was concerned, she wanted the story to be written, to put it on record, to raise money to help the animals. And in the process, if that inspired others to help animals, then that was the whole point of the book. She'd be amazed at how many people so far have expressed an interest and have pre-bought the book. Despite her originally hating the idea of her story being written, I can sense her popping her head round the corner now and saying, I told you so. By now it would be her idea. She'd be very proud of all concerned, including that Victorina Press have published it, because Consuela and Linda have been to the shelter and volunteered and adopted Soi Dog Einam. Gill was very about keep it within the Soi Dog family and help each other and stick together. And she'd be very, very proud about that. And she already knew from the beginning when we started it that it would be Victorina that hopefully would be able to publish it.
Yeah.
And to be very proud that you've supported us through it. I think overall should be very, very happy that everything's on record. Her dedication and her sacrifices are there now forever, lest anyone forgets.
Yeah.
So I hope we've done her proud. I'm sure there'd be the odd thing that she'd pick up on that wasn't the exact right date or right time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We feel very privileged to be able to publish this book. As you said, it's very close to Linda and Consuelo. And it's very close to me and George as well. I mean, okay, we've never been to Phuket, we've never volunteered with you guys, but INAM has been a massive role in mine and George's life as well. And we're both animal lovers, and going to the office every day and having a round and seeking attention from us and just being with us is amazing. And it definitely brings us closer to the book. So we've really enjoyed publishing it and putting it together, and I hope that people read it, enjoy it as much as we all have working together on it. I'm sure they will. It's lovely to see it complete. John, this question's for you. I think we touched on this once before in a different conversation. But what was the hardest part for you and Gill having to move away from the UK to Thailand?
I can't honestly say it was hard. I mean, we were excited about it. We're excited about the challenge. And it's easy to say the usual answers, oh, well, missing our family and whatever. Gill obviously was not close, particularly to family. She was missing her father. But to give you an idea, I mean, when her father died, which was in our first year there, only months after we got there, and she had to go back to the UK, and she went back to the UK. She was very upset because she was told he had quite a lot. There's no urgency, and then out of the blue he died. So she went back, and then she'd no intention of ever going back to the UK again. So it shows you really that she didn't really miss it that much.
Yeah.
And I had to persuade her to come back when we did a reunion in Wakefield. I said, come on, it'd be nice to go back. But she was not excited about the thought of going back to the UK. She enjoyed seeing dogs again, all these dogs that had been adopted there, and meeting supporters. To the degree that obviously she came back again the following year and the year after that. For me personally, yeah, I did have family still. I mean, I had my mother still, so it's more duty. I need to go back and see her every year. I do have 3 sons from a previous marriage. I wasn't as close to them as I like. I was straight up front here. I'm not the best father in the world by any means. You know, my first wife was really bringing them up more than I was. Used to see them all the time. So we've never been as close as I would like, but I see them every year when I go over. The only thing really, I mean, we didn't really have time to miss anything much, was our walking. We used to love walking in the Dales, the Lake District and so forth, and the theatre. We were big theatre lovers, and of course that went when we moved to Thailand.
Yeah.
But moving to Thailand really was an adventure. It was something we had planned. We knew what we wanted to do. So we weren't really, it wasn't hard. And it was almost as though it was meant to be, because everything slotted in very well. I mean, once we sort of talked about it, I got the offer of, I planned to retire early. I moved down when I was 55. It was 4 years before that when, with my company I worked for, opening a plant in China and asking for voluntary redundancies, that I stuck my hand up because they were offering such good terms that, you know, would have been stupid to wait till I was 55. It cost me more.
Yeah.
Even to the fact that I moved out, I came over to finish the house, Gill stayed behind to sell the house, it sold, everything just seemed to go smoothly. So I know Gill would say that's how it was meant to be, and that's everything, you know, of course that's going to happen because it was meant to be, and that's how she would have thought. I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to that sort of thing. Gill wasn't. So does that answer the question? I tend to ramble on a lot, as you'll notice, and I could even get off onto other points very easily when I'm asked questions and then end up some miles away.